The following is an encore presentation of Darkness Radio.
Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Today, folks, we've got an interesting show. We're going to talk a little bit about the secret history of Earth. We're going to talk about Merkaba activation. I know that's not something that you normally would hear about, but we're going to find out what that is exactly. We're going to talk about breath alchemy. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about the beyond. We're going to talk a little bit about how aliens figure into this, and we're going to talk about how our bodies are not really our bodies, and how they may be light bodies, and how this connects with the universe and how we connect to the universe. Our guest today is Bob Frissell. He's the founder of the breath alchemy technique and has been a teacher of breathwork for more than 35 years. Bob actually came upon breathwork in an interesting way. We'll talk to him about it here in just a moment. He's a senior student of Jim Leonard in breathwork, and I believe it is, I'll have him pronounce the gentleman's name, Drunvalo. I believe it is Melchizedek. We'll find that out in just a moment. In The Flower of Life, he is the author of several books, including Catching the Ascension Wave. He lives in California, and we've got a link to his website in the description of this program. The name of the book, which you have a link to as well, which is out in its 30th anniversary edition, is Nothing in This Book is True, but it's exactly how things are. It is out and available right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in to Darkness Radio for the first time, Bob Frissell. Bob, welcome in.
Well, thank you, Tim. I'm glad to be here, and glad we could finally make a connection just between you and me and the listeners. We had a little problem trying to get a Zoom link to work, so hopefully the telephone will do the job, and I think we'll be just fine. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Really glad to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. So in the foreword of your book, which is incredibly interesting, it talks a little bit about how you first discovered breathwork, and believe it or not, we have a little something in common. It started with a back injury, right?
Yeah, it sure did. Everything I've done, really, Tim, is a function of necessity. What's the saying? Necessity is the mother of all inventions, or something like that. But anyway, yeah, it was way back in the day where I had hurt myself in a bowling tournament really bad. And I mean, I was a professional bowler, so, I was out there. This is how I was making a living. And I got hurt, and like a dummy, I ignored it and tried to play through it, and that only made it worse. It got so much worse that I finally reached a situation where, you ever paint yourself into a corner and you got no way out? The only way out was to find a way to heal myself, because I was not going to go to a doctor. Heard too many horror stories on back surgery. Chiropractors were diminishing returns. Thank God they saved my life in the beginning, but chiropractor could put it back in, and 5 minutes later, there I was again. So help. The only option I saw was to find a way to heal myself. And you got to understand, Tim, I was starting from square zero. I was asleep. I was ignorant. I was unconscious. I didn't know a thing. And that's where I started from. And I'm so glad, to cut to the quick here, that I healed my back a long time ago, really as a direct result of everything I was learning. Breathwork was the main key, and to the point to where it's never, ever happened. And so what was the worst thing that ever happened to me at the time, and I spent a lot of time on that, stuck on that, it became clear after a certain point that it is the best thing that ever happened to me. Because had that not happened, push never came to shove, we would not be talking right now. I would not be an author. Nothing would have happened. And I don't know, I'd probably be out digging ditches somewhere. I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah. So, and I get that breath work is part of pain suppression, because I've been through that myself with pain suppression. So in that, so you start to do.
Can I correct that, Tim? It's
Sure.
not pain suppression at all. It's transmutation of the energy.
Okay. Well, explain how that works.
Can I just go into that a little bit?
Yeah,
I think
please.
It's important.
Please do.
Yeah, okay. Well, Nikola Tesla, I think the most brilliant scientist we've ever had, said it perfectly. He said, if you want to understand the universe, you have to think of it in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, with that said, you and I are perfectly functioning holograms of the one infinite creator. I can just throw that out right now, but I do go into detail on that in my book, so I'm not just blowing smoke. Mm-hmm. We are perfectly functioning holograms of the Creator, and that means that we have it all within us, just a smaller version of the whole. So you and I are energy, frequency, and vibration. And energy in its natural state in the body wants to move. It wants to be healthy, vibrating energy, contributing to the greater good of the whole, in this case, the body. But when you and I get so stuck in judgment, every time we make somebody or something wrong, we get a packet of stuck energy that we don't know what to deal with, and we stuff it back into our body and try and get on with life. Well, it kind of works, but the problem is there's this incredible buildup of stuck energy, and this relates to directly how I injured my back. All the unresolved emotional trauma from childhood and all that finally came up and did its number on me. That's what caused my back injury. The sticky approaches in the bowling tournament were just, anything could have caused it at a certain point. And so I had to learn how to transmute that stuck energy, not suppress it, not try and get rid of it, none of that, but learn how to take that same energy that was just jamming my entire body up and learn how to transmute it from life-detracting stuck energy that was doing me a lot of no good into life-enhancing energy that was clearly contributing to my sense of well-being. So get the energy starting to move again, and it started to clear up. And like I said, I've long healed my back to the point to where it's like it never ever happened. So that's the quick on all of it. But I didn't have the method that I have today. I was starting, like I said earlier, from square zero, and had to learn all of this stuff on my own. I did have a great teacher, Jim Leonard. He helped me a lot. But he just finally was able to show me the way after spinning my wheels for so many years. And thank goodness it worked. It worked perfectly. And it has evolved into the technique that I now call breath alchemy, which I share on a regular basis with my clients. It's about transmuting energy. It's about integrating stuck energy into life-enhancing energy, so you can get on with it. In my case, get my life back.
Okay. So you're moving this energy, and as you're moving this energy, how does this connect, moving this energy, how does it connect eventually to transcendental meditation and moving to a higher plane in order to connect to higher beings and higher, and I know we're going leaps and bounds above where we're meant to go, maybe even in this segment, because we have two segments here, but how are we moving through the universe and maybe even into a higher body, so to speak? But I want to take it in bite-sized bits here, Bob. So the first step is that breathing. So we're breathing, but then what does that breathing start to open up? So as I'm breathing deeper, what's the first plane I'm moving to as I'm breathing deep?
Yeah, well, good question. What it is it's a technique that I call circular breathing. And circular breathing is vastly different from the way people usually breathe. You breathe in such a way that you allow vast quantities of life force energy, source energy itself. Most commonly, it's called prana. But whatever you call it, it is the energy of source. It is the energy that throughout the cosmos makes life possible. No prana, no source energy, no life, here or anywhere else. So it's that vital. And yes, we do take it in when we breathe, but most people take it in very small amounts due to all the stuck energy that's suppressed in the body. And so what it does is it enables us to keep the body alive, but never to discover our innate ability to transmute stuck energy into life-enhancing energy. So what circular breathing does is it opens up that flow. And so you begin to feel this increased energy flow throughout your inner body. And in its healing endeavor, what it also does is it begins to bring up a pattern at a time of stuck energy that you've been suppressing due to that judgment, a pattern of that stuck energy that is causing all the problems in your body. And so the second half of breath alchemy is that in addition to the breathing, I show people how to relax into and tune into and open up your inner feeling sense and just totally unequivocally find a more useful way of relating to what you're feeling than making it wrong. In other words, find a way to allow and accept what you're feeling exactly as it is so you can go into it, feel it fully and thoroughly, accurately and honestly. In so doing, you will discover your innate ability to transmute stuck energy, life-detracting energy, into life-enhancing energy so you can get on with it again. And every session produces what we call a completed energy cycle, where what you've done is you've transmuted tons and tons of stuck energy and transformed it into life-enhancing energy. So, but you also were asking about transcendental meditation, and that's very interesting. I've been doing TM even longer than I've been doing breath work, and so I'm very much an advocate of transcendental meditation. But even though there are similarities, they are different. So, it's almost in a way like comparing apples to oranges. The common denominator in transcendental meditation, in breath alchemy, at least the way I do it, I combine the two really, as I just meditate twice a day doing my TM, and I just focus in on what I'm feeling and just find the most prominent feeling in the moment and just find a way to allow it in and relax into it and transmute its energy. And so I end my meditation feeling really good. It's kind of like a miniature breath alchemy session without doing the breathing. So that's how I do it. I don't know if a TM teacher would agree with what I'm doing, but that's what I do.
Where do you find the main conflict with a TM teacher? Is it the technique? Is it what you're finding when you get there?
No. I don't have any conflict at all with TM and with the teachings. All I meant by what I said there is that like I said, I've been doing TM longer than breath work, and that's a long time. I've been around the block many times.
Okay.
And so what they originally taught me, as opposed to what I'm doing right now, might be somewhat different. And I don't remember what exactly their original teaching is. They give you a mantra, and you go in and you go into your inner body and all of that. I don't know if they focus much on tuning into what you're feeling, but that's what I've added as a result of all my breath alchemy work, and that's what works for me. So no, and I'm a big fan of TM, and I've got no issue with any TM teacher. So I want to be clear about that.
All right. So explain to me then how when we open ourselves up, when we start the different breath work and when we're beginning to open ourselves up as far as breathing and the different breath work, what is it we're opening ourselves up to? Are we opening ourselves up to the universe, or what is it that we are opening ourselves up to?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. We are opening up to the universe. I was kind of implying earlier, well, I won't imply, I'll just say it. You and I live on a planet that is totally mind-dominated. I mean, we are stuck in our left brain. And so logically if we don't see it logically, it's like we don't see it. And the problem is that the mind was never intended to be the master of our consciousness, always and only a faithful servant. And the problem is we've made it our master. And so the further problem is that the mind is a polarized instrument. It looks out at the reality and it does not connect the dots to see wholeness. All it sees is separation. It sees us looking out at a world that we don't really get that we're a part of it. And therefore, because the mind mind is polarized, we're in a continual state of judgment. This is good, this is bad, I like you, I don't like you, that sort of thing. And like I was saying earlier, every time we do that, it creates a pattern of stuck energy in the body that, in the absence of any useful integrative technique, most people don't know how to deal with, and so they find a way to just try and ignore it or suppress it or resist it in some way. And what that does is it creates a huge reservoir of buildup of stuck energy, and it also, Tim, perfectly keeps us from our true master, from experiencing our true master, which you can only experience in the present moment. But the mind, in a polarized nature, doesn't know the present moment because it sees the present through the eyes of the unresolved past issues, just like I was living life back in the day, and so that keeps us from the present moment, and it keeps us from our heartfelt connection to Source, which is our higher self, as I like to call it. And so when you integrate, when you transmute the energy and complete a cycle, and breath alchemy isn't the only way. Many people have had great success with TM, and there's other ways too. So I don't want to say that I've got the only way, goodness sakes, no. But what I do have is a surefire technique that will put you into the present moment in an integrated say, where the shift is kind of like from a black and white world to a world of living color, kind of like that. You're in the present moment, and you're in connection with your source energy, and it's in the present moment, when you're connected to source, that all the goodies begin to flow through you, inner peace and joyfulness and creativity and inspiration and compassion and all those good things right there. So that's what being in the present moment does. It puts you in touch with experiential touch with your true master, which is your connection to Source, your heartfelt connection to Source, your higher self.
I see a bit of a catch-22 here, Bob, and follow me for a second. So when we do this, when we connect to Source, we get creativity, we get inspiration. But at the same time, much like you and I are speaking right now through technology, right? We come up with creative things to try to make our things and our lives easier, right? Things like technology, things that we can use to try to make our lives easier so we can continue to create, or at least that's the idea, right? But as we create things to make our lives easier, we become slaves to the things that make our lives easier.
So, we do.
And they tend to be more left-brained. See what I'm saying? So
yes, they are.
And it seems like the majority of the population wants to latch onto the things that are more left-brained, and we tend to cut ourselves off from Source. So I think you see where I'm going with this particular question. As we continue to do this, as we continue to mine this source of creativity and come up with bigger and better sources of things that make our lives easier, are we slowly making that source further away? Are we doing ourselves a disservice by tapping into the source?
In a very real sense, yes. Look at how many people are just totally addicted to their smartphones. Just as one example, not making the thing wrong, but my goodness sakes, it's people live like they can't live without the thing. I don't even have one, so I've never gone there, and I don't know about that. But yeah. That's what I mean when I say that we live on a planet that is totally mind-based, and the more technology you create to make your life easier, in a very real sense, the more you are separating yourself from the source. But not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need both. We need both in such a way that they're integrated into wholeness. However, and in the unintegrated, well, that would be stupid. For most people, they're not. Let's just put it that way. So in my book, and nothing in this book is true, in all my books, I go into great detail to show the mind, the logical-based mind, and the only way you can show it through a series of logical steps, that everything is completely interlinked. And it's not only interlinked, but the universe is holographic. Everything is a smaller version of the whole. Therefore, it's impossible to be separated from the whole when you are a smaller version of the whole. But the question is, can we get that out of knowing it conceptually to knowing it as a living experience? And so let me just complete the thought when I say that in my book I've gone to great lengths to show that, because that's the only way the mind can be shown, in a series of logical steps. And when the mind finally sees that, now it can begin to understand in what the intuitive side has been trying to say for all these years. But it in the absence of seeing any sort of unity between the two sides, it's kind of like a bad marriage that doesn't work. And even if one side is communicating truthfully and honestly, the other person is probably not going to hear it, because it has to pass through their filter of all their judgments about how bad and wrong the person or the situation might be, or like that. So we've got to get the two operating in harmony. And when the two are operating in harmony, now the mind is in full cooperation with the intuitive side, the connection to source, the higher self, and life begins to show up, not conceptually, but experientially. So hope that helps to answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you what, Bob, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about, as we're starting to ascend into different planes, we're working our way through dimensions and whatnot. I want to talk to you about what exactly Merkaba is and how we activate it. So we'll get to that. Yeah. And then I want to talk about masters, ascended masters, and then I want to figure out where aliens work into this and what exactly aliens are, and are we understanding exactly what's out in the universe, and what exactly that is. And I want to just talk briefly about sacred geometry and how that figures into everything, because we hear about geometry and sacred geometry, and we're trying to figure out if we could just give people just a brief overview of how shapes figure into things. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Bob Frissell is our guest. The name of the book is Nothing in This Book is True, but it's exactly how things are. The 30th anniversary edition of this book is out now. We have a link in the description of this program. When we come back, we'll talk to Bob exactly about what exactly Merkaba is and how do we activate it. That's coming up next here on The Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to The Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Bob Frissell. The name of the book is Nothing in This Book is True, but it's exactly how things are. It's the 30th anniversary of this wonderful book. By the way, the rest of the title of the book, The Secret History of the Earth, Merkaba Activation, and Breath Alchemy. It's a big, long title. But you can find out the entire title by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. Bob, before we left people, we were talking about exactly that, Merkaba and Merkaba activation. We kind of need to go backward before we go forward and tell people what exactly Merkaba is, because it does involve a little bit of a universal connection, doesn't it?
It sure does, yeah. Yeah, well, the Merkaba is the universal pattern of creation. There's really nothing that it isn't, and because it's everything. In my books, what I detail how way back in the beginning, there was what I guess you could call infinity. I mean, just intelligent infinity. It doesn't really have, where are you going to go with that? So at one point, back in the day, intelligent infinity created intelligent energy, and from that, by vibration, go back to Tesla. If you want to understand the universe, energy, frequency, and vibration. By vibration, what intelligent energy did was it created the first photon. And from the first photon, everything in the universe is a fractal of that. All there really is just the one original photon, and everything else is a holographic a fractal of that. And so the original photon is the original Merkaba, the universal pattern of creation. And like I was saying earlier, that because you and I hope I was saying that you and I are perfectly functioning holograms of the whole, that means that we are just smaller versions of the whole. That means that we are the living Merkaba field. It's contained within us. It's contained with everything. And like I said earlier, there's nothing that it isn't. And so that's kind of like the basic definition of Merkaba that I would give. And where we can go from there is that in my book, what I do is I teach it's in the book, step by step, a 17-breath meditation. That if it's performed correctly, it'll help you to activate this energy field around your body. Like I said, for most people, this energy field around our body, and to get a sense of what it looks like, it's shaped in the form of a star tetrahedron, which is just two back-to-back tetrahedrons that kind of looks like a star. That image is around our body, and in most people, it's in a dormant state. So if you've got a proper, shall we say, level of presence, and we were talking about that earlier with integration into wholeness, transmuting energy, that sort of thing through breathwork, then it's possible to use this 17-breath meditation to great effect, to actually activate, to turn on that field around the body, to just, give you a greater experiential sense of what it is like to be connected to the whole. It's really like that. And ultimately, Tim, it is a pattern of ascension. And at some point, we are probably going to get into the whole idea of ascension on how we are very much in the verge, and I state the case for it, that in great detail, I state the case because it does need to. You do need to dig into it to begin to realize that we're living on a planet that is very much on the verge of going from its third dimensional aspect into the fourth dimensional, a much higher vibration, a much higher level of unity consciousness, and basically. If you want to believe what the law of one says about it, it's 100 times at least more harmonious in every possible way than even our very best moments here are on third dimensional Earth. And so we're living on a planet that's very much into that process. And in so many ways, that's what my book is about, is detailing the big picture context and all of that. Just what does that mean, what I just said? Am I some sort of a weirdo who's just blowing smoke and trying to make a buck by selling books? No. I'm somebody who's researched this very, very deeply for the past 30 years or so, and I can tell you that there is reference to this whole ascension thing in at least 35 different sources that I found, from the Native Americans to the Mayans to the Hindus. They call the Samvartika, and it's just all over the place. The Bible's full of it too. So this ascension thing, moving from one dimensional level to another, is something that all planets go through at a certain point in their evolutionary process. Our neighbor Venus did it 2.6 billion years ago, and it's now inhabited by beings that are known as the Hathor race, and they're all fourth dimensional. And the great-grandfathers, if you will, of Venus are known as the ancient builder race. They are sixth dimensional. That's on a level that's so far beyond us that we can hardly imagine. And what they did, the reason I mentioned the ancient builder race is they're very instrumental in our evolutionary process. They're the ones who gave us the law of one. And a lot of my book delves into the law of one information, the material, as it was presented back in the Egyptian mystery schools in 1355 BC through Akhenaten and his mystery school, which was called the law of one. And so by digging into that, you can get a lot of insight as to who we are, what's going on, and where we're going. And the Merkaba is fundamental to all of this.
I have an interesting question about the Merkaba, because you mentioned it looks like the Star of David, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm drawing an obvious parallel here. You tell me if I'm off or not. It looks like the Star of David. In the book, you mentioned that at most, only a few thousand people on this planet have it activated and can see it, look at it, whatever. And about 8,000 ascended masters who reside on another level of Earth's consciousness actually possess it or have activated it or have it. So to me, this sounds like they're chosen ones, right? And when you, at least that's what it sounds like.
Well, I that's not the way I would characterize it. The chosen ones, is that what you said?
Right, but follow my line of thinking here, right? Okay. So if you follow the Bible or if you read the Bible, that to me sounds like Old Testament writings for the Jewish people, or what the Jewish people were saying about the chosen ones, Star of David. It almost sounds to me like they were able to see the Merkaba. Is that just me?
Could be. I don't know. I must confess I am not a student of the Bible. In fact, the only thing I know about the Bible is from what I've gotten from other sources, and I've put a few quotes about biblical quotes into one of my books, Catching the Ascension Wave. But truth be known, I am not a student of the Bible, so I can't comment on the Hebrew thing or any of that stuff. What I can say is that with regard to the Ascended Masters, I wouldn't call them chosen ones at all. I would just call them people who figured out the game of life a long time ago and learned that as you ascend through the heights, you never lose your memory, and that's really a good definition of immortality. Never again having a break in memory, and because you will change bodies as you ascend through the heights. At a certain point, the body you're in is not useful anymore. For example, going from the third to the fourth dimension, our bodies transform completely into light bodies. Flesh and blood cannot make it through. That's a quote from the Bible, from the little I know about the Bible. That's straight out of the Bible. Flesh and blood cannot make it through, and you will go through an instant. I don't know exactly how they say it, but kind of like in a ball of light, because you've learned to transform your body into a light body. So, Ascended Masters to me are just people, very similar to the ancient builder race. They're both residing on the sixth dimension, which is almost beyond our ability to even imagine what they can do. They've just, shall we say, discovered the game of life to the nth degree. With that being said, there's always a place to evolve into. When we bend into the fourth dimension, at a certain point, we're going to graduate and move into the fifth dimension, and from there into the sixth. The Ascended Masters are just way ahead of us. That's kind of like the biggest difference. I mean, they're human beings. They just figured out what it's all about, and it's up to us to catch up, so to speak.
Very interesting. All right. So as we're talking about this ascension, as we're going from one level to the next, I'm interested in how we graduate, because obviously we're on this plane here, right? Is this this a spiritual ascension? Is this a physical ascension? Is this 6 of one, half dozen of another? How does this happen?
Well, you have to be ready for it. I go into great length just talking about that. And usually the normal scenario is, as they say, many are called, few are chosen, that when a planet is ready for ascension, and every third dimensional planet will go through this at some point. If we go back and take a look at Venus 2.6 billion years ago, they detailed it all. They spelled it all out in the Law of One. And they went on to say that there were something like about 32 million inhabitants on the entire planet, just a slightly sparser population than what we have here on planet Earth, but 32 million people, and most of them did not make it. Only 6.5 million did make it through. Wow. So the question is, well, what happens to those who do not make it into the fourth dimension? And the answer is they will be taken care of. what I've discovered in all my research, and really a good source for that, there's a book that came out in the late 1990s. It's called Cosmic Voyage. And what it gives is a detailed accounting of the author's experience with remote viewing. Now, when that book first came out, I didn't really trust it very much because I didn't really trust remote viewing. But I dug a little bit deeper, and I began to realize that a good remote viewer is 100% accurate on terrestrial viewings, and as much as 99% accurate on off-planet viewings. And so I took this book out again, dusted it off, and started taking a more serious look at it. And what it's telling is the author's experience of just visualizing the actual experience of certain ET groups coming in whose main job, whose main function seems to be that just before the planet goes from third to fourth dimension, taking those who are not ascension ready and transporting them to another third dimensional planet so they will be given to the opportunity to alleviate enough karma, however many lifetimes it might take, so that at a certain point they too will become ascension ready. So you've got the two groups now. You've got those who are ascension ready, 6.5 million of whom made it into the fourth dimension on Venus 2.5 billion years ago, and those who were not ready. Only those, the most wicked of the wicked, will have to face the trials and the tribulations of the pole shifting and the solar flash, which burns everything to a crisp on the planet. Ooh. But thank goodness we will not be here when that happens. And so it's really a cosmic event. It's a spiritual event in the sense that we have to be ready for it. The law of one makes it very clear. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to do your best to be the best version of yourself that you can be. They also make it very clear that life gives us a choice, that either we can be of service to self or we can be of service to the greater good. Now, life doesn't stop us if we choose service to self, but what it does is it gives us an enormous amount of karma that's going to take many thousands of lifetimes to work through in order to get us ascension ready. Now, if you choose the path of being of service to the greater good, now you're on the right track. And you don't have to be perfect with it. They make it very clear that if you're as little as 51% committed to the greater good, the other 49% of you can be, conniving and all the rest of that. Mm-hmm. But 51% of you is out there doing your best to do the right thing. It's committed to the greater good of the whole. You will go through. You will go through into the fourth dimension when the shift happens. Now, I also make the case, just to further solidify this whole ascension thing, is that throughout our solar system, there is a great cosmic dust cloud, if you will, an ascension wave that is coming in that is dramatically raising the vibratory rate of everything. In my next book, I'm going to detail what it's doing to all the planets in our solar system. It's heating them up. And what it's doing to raise the vibratory rate of the planet that we live on, planet Earth, to get as many of us ascension ready as can possibly be. And that's just a cosmic event. That's not just something that just happens here. That's something that happens to every solar system when it's time for it to go from third to fourth dimension. The more you dig into it, the more fascinating it becomes. I tell you, it's captured my imagination, that's for sure. And I've been looking into this, deep diving into it for at least the past 30 years.
That, Bob, is probably the most clear anyone's ever put that to me. You know that? I mean, I've heard psychics and mediums tell me, oh no, there's this dimensional shift, blah 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 blah, and I've been fed lines before, but never has anybody put it to me that clearly in 5 minutes in my life.
Well, I gave you a pretty good soundbite. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no, it's never, no one's ever said to me that's exactly how a dimensional shift happens, or that it's ever happened before in the past, or that's exactly how it happens.
Well, it just takes me back to, thanks for letting me be on your show to talk about all this stuff. Look, if I wasn't writing books about this, I'd be doing it anyway. I'd be deep diving into this whole issue of ascension and what the Law of One says and what happened back in the mystery schools back in the day. I'd be doing it anyway. And so it's just a labor of love. It's not work. It's just, like I say, I'd be doing it anyway. And I really appreciate having the time to share all this with you. For me, it's just a joy. It's just fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is what my life is about.
So the other thing that's always, I guess, fascinated me, and maybe you can help us out here with a quick splash into this, is sacred geometry and where exactly it comes from, how it integrates with us. And again, it's another one of those mystery schools, right?
Yeah. Where back in the day in Atlantis Mystery School, they spent 12 years deep diving into this. And nothing in this book is true. I gave it a full chapter with something like, 55, 60 sacred geometrical drawings. It's kind of hard to, I would actually have to have a slideshow and show you step by step just exactly what sacred geometry is. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that it underlies everything. It's not, sacred geometry is just, is like I said earlier, that, infinite, what did I say? What did I call it? Intelligent infinity created way back in the beginning. It created intelligent energy, and by vibration alone, it created the first photon. Well, the photon is a geometric image, and so it's created by sound and by vibration, and really that's it. So underlying everything throughout the cosmos, throughout all of the creation, is shape, is form, is geometry. And it all begins as fundamental as creating the first photon, which, as I said earlier, is the universal pattern of creation. It is the Merkaba. Nothing it is, nothing that it isn't, everything that it is, including you and I. And so it's when I first heard about sacred geometry, I didn't have any interest in it at all. I couldn't even fake an interest. But then I started realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe that's not the best approach. And I started taking it a bit more seriously. And what I did is I got myself a really good compass and a good straight edge, and I started making the drawings. Every drawing that I show in my book, every single one of them, I made myself. Man, I learned a lot by making those drawings. So if you really want to know what sacred geometry is, get a copy of my book and start doing the drawings from the very first one. And I think you will begin to see. Now, the beauty of sacred geometry, Tim, is that it's a wonderful way of showing the mind that does not connect the dots that everything is a function. There's only one pattern. There's only one creation pattern moving through all of the cosmos, moving through all of the life on all levels. And it's very useful in showing the mind that, because the mind has to see that in order to begin to link in with its intuitive side, so we can create wholeness and we can create oneness. So I spend all this time on sacred geometry in my books, not for the purpose of teaching sacred geometry, but for the purpose of showing the left brain, the separate mind, that you can connect the dots, and as you do, you begin to see wholeness, and you begin to see and live experientially just what it's all about. That's how I use sacred geometry. So I hope that helps. You can't really show it without showing a slideshow to go through it step by step.
Understood. One of the things that is interesting in the book, and again, we can try to encapsulate it without getting into a huge lecture about it, is Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and going into how it lines up with the Fibonacci sequence, and how genius Da Vinci was in coming up with that. It's funny how he, you think, well, it's an interesting drawing, right? You say, well, it's a beautiful drawing in that, but when you break it down into exactly into sacred geometry, and you explain it beautifully in the book, what that figure means, what it breaks down to in geometry, in sacred geometry. It really has quite a bit of meaning. And
it does. Yeah, Da Vinci was working with sacred geometry, and the flower of life is kind of like the ultimate expression of all the sacred geometry images, and Da Vinci was working with the flower of life. Again, maybe I shouldn't have said that, because what is the flower of life pattern if you can't see it? But so maybe I should strike that.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I mean, but it's easy. It's easy enough to throw out there, and then again, if people want to know more, they can pick up the book. I mean, yeah.
I got flowered of life image plastered all over that book for sure.
Sure.
Many.
We hear a lot about the chakra systems too. I mean, we can bounce from that to this. How with your interpretation of, and we're talking about energies as well, and we're talking about, when we talk about breath work, the way that you operate, Bob, is there a way of aligning your chakras in a different way that we've heard maybe on the show in the past?
Well, I think one of the real keys is learning how to transmute enough energy, enough stuck energy, so that you can get out of the lower three centers and up into the higher centers. You can't really get there until you're ready for it. It ties in perfectly with what we're talking about here, because until you're ready for it, you're going to stop yourself from further growth. So this is not something you can fake. This is not about acting as if. It's not about going through the motions. It's about discovering the real deal. And fundamentally, if I were to bottom line it, that's making the distinction between living life conceptually and living life as a living presence. And so life tends to be lived in survival mode when human beings are stuck in the lower three centers, and there's just not a whole lot of aliveness going on there. Not until you integrate, as I say, transmute enough of that stuck energy to create enough wholeness so that you can get through into the higher centers. Like I said earlier, you can't get there until you're ready for it. But when you are ready, it'll begin to open up for you. And when it does, like I say, a whole new world of experience opens up for you. So you're not living life conceptually, you're living it as a living experience. And opening up the chakras is very fundamental and very important. I think that certainly is what happens in breath alchemy. And I think that we talked about transcendental meditation earlier too. There's multiple ways of getting there, and those are the two that I practice.
Okay. So let me bring this around to another subject that has been really, really hot lately in the paranormal, and that's aliens. All right, and UFO. We've seen a lot of craft out there. Some of it, a lot of people would like to say, well, a lot of what you see in the sky is our own military, maybe military of another country. I think people hold on to the belief that a lot of what we see in the sky would be craft from another civilization, or maybe even craft of time travelers, of our own selves coming back to talk to ourselves, or maybe warn ourselves, or keep dangerous things out of our own hands. We'll put it that way. I'll ask you this question, because it seems to me that there's something going on, or something accelerating as we're ticking down the sands of time, so to speak. From your perspective, what do you believe is going on right now with the accelerated activity that's happening as the clock is ticking down, so to speak?
Well, the first is that the universe is so full of life forms that it's just ridiculous. Fairly recently, there was a study came out called the Pettigrew study. I think that's pronounced correctly. And to cut very much the quick on all of that, they were very conservative in what they allowed to to be true in their study. So using very extremely ridiculously conservative estimates, they came up with the conclusion that for every grain of sand on our planet, on planet Earth, for every single grain of sand, there's at least 100 different planets out there that have life forms comparable to ours or beyond ours. So let's let go of the notion that there's nobody else out there. That is absurd. That is obscene. That is ridiculous. And you stated it well, too. A lot of them are time travelers coming back. A lot of us are us coming back from the future, coming back, traveling in time, just helping to make, fine-tuning adjustments to get the thing going. And so, the universe is full of life. And then the question is, well, where do you want to go from there? And like I was saying earlier, at some point, every planet, every third-dimensional planet and associated solar system is going to go through the very changes that we're experiencing right now. You can't get away from it. It's just life. It's just life in the cosmos. Because there's always a higher world to evolve into. And that's really what life is about. The way I see it is that it's just a great learning school, and that we're here to transmute enough karma so that we can get to the point to begin to live experientially our true nature, and to just let go of the false beliefs and the limiting nonsense that we've been clinging on to for all these years, and the revenge and all the rest of the stuff that goes with hanging on to judgments. So once you and I, individually and collectively, have cleared enough karma, then we're ready to move on to the next level. That, I will submit, is what's going on the planet right here. With the enormous increase in vibratory rate that's coming in through this cosmic dust cloud. And this is something that the ETs have been telling us about this since the 1950s. The great spiritual teachings have been telling us about it for eons. That in that time is right here and right now. So that the entire planet is getting ready to make a shift very similar to the one Venus made 2.6 billion years ago. Big difference is that we got a few more than 32 million inhabitants on our planet right now. So the great question is, who's going to go and who's not going to go? It is possible, though not likely, that some form of unity, some form of coming together, some form of global transformation might just occur, and virtually the entire planet can go as if we're, well advanced down the road. That's not likely, but it is possible. And if it doesn't happen, really not to worry, that for those who are not ascension ready, they will be taken to another third-dimensional planet through time travel and through a bunch of other techniques that the ETs have. And they will be given the opportunity, like I said, to transmute it, to transform enough of the karma into healthful, life-enhancing energy so that they can get on with the greater good, being of service to the greater good, and ultimately become ascension ready. That, in a nutshell, I submit, is what's going on the planet today. As far out and ridiculous as it sounds, I make the case for it fully and thoroughly, not only in Nothing in This Book is True, but also in Catching the Ascension Wave. You put those two books together, you get a pretty good picture of what I've been able to put together and what's going on here from a big picture perspective.
So could this be misinterpreted by a lot of people who follow the Bible closely as the end of the world? Is this going to be one of those things where people are going to turn this into a biblical event and misinterpret it? Oh,
it's very easy to misinterpret it, yeah. And I'm sure that many people have. But that's I guess that's where I come in. I'm showing those who are willing that maybe we're not living as separate entities cut off from the source, but the greater truth is that we are totally, completely connected to all that is, and it's just a matter of stepping up to the plate enough to begin to live that experientially. And when you're able to make that sort of distinction from living life conceptually, living life off of belief systems, and not to make the Bible or Christianity wrong, but I think a lot of people are living off their belief systems, which really teaches separation and not wholeness. And I don't want to go any further than that because I'm not out to make religion wrong. But I am just saying that there is a greater way, and that you and I are perfectly connected to all that is. And the more we can learn to live that experientially, the more we can begin to live the way life intended us to live, and that is to be created, to be committed to doing the right thing to the greatest degree possible, to be committed to serving the greater good. And when your life begins to show up that way, now life begins to show up. You begin to move, and you will be ascension ready. Look, there's more people that are going to make it into the fourth dimension than they may not believe it, or may not think it, or not even know about it. But there's a lot of good people out there who are doing the right thing, and that's the bottom line right there. When the time comes, they're going to find themselves in a world that's at least 100 times more harmonious than even our very best moments here on third-dimensional Earth. So that's kind of like what I'd like to wrap it up with, if that's okay, Tim.
Absolutely, absolutely. Name of the book is Nothing in This Book is True, but it's exactly how things are. It's a 30th anniversary edition. The second part of the title is The Secret History of the Earth, Merkaba Activation, and Breath Alchemy. We have a link in the description of this program, folks. I encourage you to go get it. We've barely scratched the surface, and there's so much more in this. So I encourage you to go get it. Bob Frissell, I want to thank you so much for being with us today on Darkness Radio.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I've enjoyed every moment of it, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to you, Tim.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you.
And to the work, and thanks to the work you're doing. You're putting yourself out there in a big way, and that's great. That's service to the greater good. You're out there. You're doing it. Good for you.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for being on the program today. I want to thank Bob Frissell for being on the program today. The name of the book, Nothing in This Book is True, but it's exactly how things are. The Secret History of the Earth, Merkaba Activation, and Breath Alchemy. And if you don't think I'm out of breath after saying that, you're dead wrong. I'm just saying. Again, Bob Frissell is the author of this wonderful book. It is put out there by Bear & Company, Rochester, Vermont. Originally, it was put out by them. It has been released since then by a different publisher. So it's the 30th anniversary edition. We have a link in the description of this program so that you can pick it up. And by all means, pick it up, take a look at it. I find Bob's outlook extremely fascinating. And again, he's the first one to ever explain it to me in 5 minutes or less what the supposed transition is, right? This going from the third dimension to fourth dimension transition is supposed to be. Everybody else is giving me the woo-woo explanation. Bob's the first one to ever explain it to me in a physical term. And I've been on this planet for 54 years. No one's been able to explain it to me before Bob. So there you go. I learned something today, kids. There you go. I learned something today. All right, so that's how we're going to leave you this week. Big week next week. That much I can tell you. So get ready for that. Lots of good stuff coming down the pike in February and March. If you have a guest you'd like to hear, send me a note, tim@darknessradio.com. Hopefully with a lead. That's always a Benny. A couple of notes before we leave you here today. Make sure you go to the YouTube page, the original Darkness Radio, and subscribe. Like and subscribe there. We're going to be setting up some membership benefits if you decide you want to become a member of that page. Check out the shop at darknessradioshow.com. There's some new stuff going up there as well this weekend. Super Bowl's this weekend, too. Yeah. I don't know if you got a favorite, whether it be the Chiefs or the Eagles. But look for the big conspiracy this weekend. You've heard me talk about it on Supernatural News. I honestly think Chiefs win by one score, whether it be a field goal or touchdown. Look for Travis Kelce to drop to one knee. Andy Reid hands him the ring. He proposes to Tay-Tay. She accepts. Biggest ratings in the history of the Super Bowl. If I'm lying, I'm dying, folks. Just saying. Let's see. I wonder what the over-under is on that deal. I wonder if I should take action on that deal. Just wondering. Okay. Also, the Darkness Radio Apple app. If you have not updated it, update it. If you, for some reason, cleared it off your phone when there's a bit of a lull there, make sure you re-add it to your phone. Let's see. Oh, we had good news about Good Pods. Yeah, we made Good Pods rankings. There was a couple different rankings there. So if you're on Good Pods, check that out. We made strides on Good Pods. We're making news everywhere. So there you go. We're charting in our categories on Apple Podcasts. So yeah, Darkness Radio is making waves here in 2025. So we're glad we're making waves there. I know we're charting top 10 in the hobbies category, and we're charting elsewhere in different places. So I'm glad you guys are listening. I'm happy you guys are listening. I'm grateful to you. And so I want to thank you guys as well before we leave today. On a more serious note today, I want to dedicate today's show to an extended family member who passed away last week. You've heard me say that I have an adopted daughter in the past. Her twin sister passed away. Her name's Kenzie. She's only 27 years old. I've known Kenzie most of her life. It was quite painful. I wanted to keep it off air because it's been a rough week. And it was a tragic death. I'm not going to go into it much. I'll just, before we leave today, remind you to keep your loved ones close. Remind them this weekend how much you care about them. And cherish those moments because, we're going to have another big weekend this weekend. Just make sure you tell everybody you love them. Spend a little extra time. Hold on to that hug a little bit longer. And we will see you right back here next week for more Darkness Radio. Rest in peace, Kenzie. You were loved. You'll be missed. And I love all of you. We'll see you right back here next week for the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.